everyone, welcome to Watch It Paint It. This week we're painting the Ultimate Shredder from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shadows of the Past. Now this was a Kickstarter exclusive, so hopefully you've got that, hopefully you backed it on Kickstarter and you've got this model. Benson's painting it this week and he's going to be starting off with white primer by the Citadel. He's lightly coated the whole model on that and we're going to be building the paint up on top of that. So just a little shout out to Benson, congratulations. This model actually won a prize for best single model painted, and yeah, so you're going to be watching an award-winning tutorial this week for Benson's paint job. So he's starting off with Naggaroth Night mixed with Abaddon Black. That's about 50% of each mixed together. He's trying to make quite a dark purple to base this shredder's clothing in. So that's sort of his trouser part and his chest part. I don't really know what he's wearing. He's wearing some sort of jumpsuit, isn't he, from the 80s? So Benson's using his base brush here, and he'll be doing that for most of the base coating. I mean, clues in the name, I think, with Citadel, but the regiment brush by Army Painter would do equally good job. Leadbelcher by Citadel's next, and that's for all of the metal parts of Shredder. So that's about, I mean, this model is about a third red, a third purple, and a third silver. So we're going to be starting with his leg guards there, his shin pads, his greaves, I guess. One of those words got to be right. Moving on to his helmet, he's wearing a big metal helmet in this sculpt, and so make sure to catch all of those, including the spikes up the front, and very carefully the inside of the helmet there. After that, it'll be his wrist guards, his arm guards, and there's two spikes coming off of the end as well, his blades, his Wolverine blades. So they'll be in the silver as well. Same on the other side, so we'll be repeating the process. And then after this, he's also got a pair of shoulder pads with big spikes on as well. This is a pretty frightening looking model. I certainly wouldn't want to mess with him myself. Benson doing a little work off camera there, so keep it secret, keep it safe. As I did mention, this was a Kickstarter exclusive model, so there is a normal shredder that comes in the base game, the retail version, and obviously you could take some of this work and apply it to that model. The colour scheme's still going to be fairly similar, and he does look similar without a massive cape, really. So, and he's a teeny tiny model, but you know, swings and roundabouts that can be a little bit faster to paint. There's less coverage, but a little bit harder with the finer detail. So, hopefully the video will help there. And if not, leave us a little comment in the comments, and we'll try and do the normal shredder as well at some point. So he's just finishing off the metals, and the wrist blade, the wrist guard goes round to the other side as well, so paint in some of that very carefully. And by very carefully, I mean doesn't need to be super careful yet. It is one of the only colours on the model, so you're not accidentally catching anything else at this point. But silver's slightly difficult to paint over sometimes, depending what colour you're going to do next, I guess. But they are around his hands, so that might be a little bit tedious to paint over with skin. Abaddon Black's next, and that's to paint his face mask, the bit over his mouth, as well as his like boots, ninja socks. So that's around his ankles, his toes, and then up the side of his legs slightly. They're just around the back of those shin guards we painted in with the Leadbelcher silver. So still using the base brush here, so it's fairly easy work, although just a little bit more care. It's taking a little bit longer now, trying not to get any of this black on any of the colours we've previously painted in, as it is a bit of a pain to tidy up. Ushabti Bone's next, and that's to paint the bandages that are between Shredder's biceps and the blade instruments he's got there. What are those wraps called? Oh, wraps is probably a good word. He's got those wraps on there, and then just a bit of more Leadbelcher there, just to tidy up any mistakes that were made there. Cadian Fleshtone is Benson's choice for the skin colour this time, so that's Citadel's skin tone, and he'll be painting in his hands and his biceps, and then there'll be a little bit of face poking through as well, that between the helmet and the mask that he's wearing, so need to get those. Quite some care being taken here now, just to make sure we don't get any of this paint on any of the already painted parts of the model, but still, big model, quite easy work, nothing too fiddly here. Still using the base brush even on that tiny bit of face. You could see Gory Red by Vallejo's out, and this is quite a dark, deep red. And this is to do his cape, his cummerbund, and that dangly bit down the middle, his loincloth that he doesn't need. But now this just looks like it would get in the way when you were trying to do some ninja fighting. And what do you guys think? I'm pretty certain this is more hindrance than help. What else should I say in this bit? Let's take a moment to just say, let's big up Benson. If you are enjoying this video, do give him a thumbs up in the comments below, and give him a comment, say hi, how you doing, that sort of thing. And then Benson makes a mistake, and this is how he lets me know in the videos as I'm editing them. Little little post-its come up for me to see. So he forgot to film painting the Seraphim Sepia, and that's the shade on the flesh tones there. So he's just demonstrating there. It was to cover the bandages, those wraps. Wraps is a good word, I'm going to stick with that, and his skin. Carroburg Crimson. Now this is a reddish shader from Citadel. So that was for the cape and all the red parts, and then Gory Red's back out. That's the end of all the shading. That's the only bits of shade, the only bits of wash Benson's going to be using on this model. So back to Gory Red, and he's just going to be highlighting back up all the red parts of this model, so his cape and his cummerbund and his little dangle cloth there. So applying quite a generous wide coating of this red, just bringing all the original base colour back through and just trying to leave that shade in the very, very deepest recesses of this model. It's still using the base brush, including all these tinier bits on the back, because they're just not as tiny as other models. This is, I mean, you can see it in Benson's hands there. This is a lot bigger to what we're normally painting. It is the ultimate shredder. It is fairly large. I think it's the biggest model in the game. I think so. I think I'll stand by that statement. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below. And then after that, it's going to be taking Wazdakka Red and mixing that in with that Gory Red. 50-50, 1-to-1 ratio. Take one drop of each and mix them together, and you get a slightly brighter red. He's then going to be applying this fairly watered down. Each highlight's quite watered down, and it sort of builds up on top of each other as he's going through. You don't want this too watery, because you don't want to turn into a wash or anything silly like that and accidentally have it running all over the model. But fine thin coats is the best way to apply these highlights. Highlight them up in layers. And he's just applying this to more of the central parts of all of these raised bits of Shredder's capes. That way he's just building up the highlight where the light would be catching it most in the bits closest to the light, the raised parts. So each edge of each fold of his cape there is getting a little highlight, as well as the bit dangling down at the front. And then it wouldn't be a Benson video if we didn't do another highlight. So just plain neat Wazdakka Red here by Citadel, and that's just to apply the final highlight of this red, a very, very bright, vibrant red, and that's to paint down, highlight down the very centre of each of these folds on all over the red. So that's around his neck, down his back, down the cape, down each central bit of the folds and each edge of each fold, each flap of this cape, and then especially down the edge of the cape. And I'd apply it down the bottom, and Benson does as well. Perfect. So that's why he's won the award for this. This is done very, very well. And just finding all the folds that you'd be able to see from the front there, and then doing exactly the same process along with this loincloth he's got down the middle. Naggaroth Night's out neat now, so this is to highlight up all the purple parts, and it's the same process. Shredder's clothes are pretty wrinkled, either muscles or he just needs to get the iron out, I think, and iron out some of these creases and everything. But yeah, it's the same process with the purple. Just apply it to all the raised parts of every fold of his trousers and his chest, so you get to give his muscles some definition along there. For the next highlight of purple, he's going to be mixing Naggaroth Night with Xereus Purple, 50-50, 1-to-1 ratio, and that's just to repeat the process with a smaller, thinner line of all of that, and that's going to bring out the purple, make it look a lot more 3D. Just moving on to Ushabti Bone to paint in his wraps there, and he's just painting in each line of wrap, leaving the Seraphim Sepia wash in all of the recesses. Cadian Fleshtone's out, and that's to highlight back up his skin, so again catching all the raised muscles on this shredder, so he's got some big biceps there to paint, and all of his fingers and thumbs, just leaving the Seraphim Sepia in between all the fingers and the muscle shadows that would be cast by those massive biceps. It works out too much. I need to work out more. I think that's the problem. This is a muscle envy going on here. So after this, we're going to be moving on to another highlight. That's Cadian Fleshtone mixed with Kislev Flesh, about 50-50, and that's to give a brighter highlight on the top of all of those previously highlighted skin parts. Leadbelcher Mithril Silver mixed again 50-50 here, and that's to start highlighting all the metal up on this shredder. So painting in all of the raised parts, leaving the darker Leadbelcher in the recesses here. So that's going to work as the shaded area without adding a wash, just by itself, and brightening up the metals gradually. So applying the same technique to all of the blades all over him and any of the raised parts of the metal. You can do quite a lot in this, because you are just trying to leave that original Leadbelcher to show up as the shade. That's what the intention is there. so just leaving it in all those creases, all those nooks and joints sort of thing. And then the last highlight on the metal, that's just plain Mithril Silver, and that's going to be to catch all of the very edges, so each lip of his helmet there, all of his spikes along the tips of those, along the edges of all the blades, and along the top of his boots, that sort of thing. Anywhere the light would be just catching on the very most raised parts where, you know, metal would be dazzling you, I guess. There you go, you can see it being applied to his shin pads there along the top, and all of the edges of the shin pads. Skavenblight Dinge is going to be the dark grey to highlight up the black, so that's just all the edges of those boot wrap things, those socks he's got on his ninja socks. And I was just going to be catching the edge of his mask there as well, which unfortunately you couldn't quite see off camera. Abaddon Black's back out, and that's to paint him into sort of eye sockets, as Benson often does. He starts with a black eye, then he adds some white, so there you go, there's the white scar, adding him in some eyeballs. He's not going to add a pupil to this, which terrifying. It gives the Shredder quite the scary look, and it looked very good at the end. Last bit of colouring now will be the base, so he's taken some Skavenblight Dinge and White Scar, mixed about 3 to 1, 25% white. That's to achieve a sort of filthy suit look if you've got the army painter set. He's painting the base grey for this, just to make him stand out a little bit better because he's got black shoes on. He's just using Skavenblight Neat just to give a darker rim around the edge and bring your attention back to the model. And that's Shredder completely finished, 1 hour 39 minutes. That's not bad, especially for a model that won the reward, won an award, won a prize. Fantastic work, Benson. Do big up Benson below, give him a thumbs up if you did enjoy the video. I thought he did fantastically well, I think that looks great. If you want to see any more turtles painted, let us know in the comments which ones below, and thank you all very much for watching.